Yeah, oh, Baba. You know that song? Ọpẹ́ yẹ ó, ọmọ Elédùmarè aṣọre kárí ayé. Ó ṣe fọ́ba, ó tún ṣe tìjòyè lọ́tọ̀. Kò má gbàgbé àwọn ọmọ rẹ̀ bàbá. Ọpẹ́ yẹ ó, Baba. Harmony. You know, that's something about you. You are always prepared. Okay, let's get into it before we go to that, the playing of keyboard and every other stuff.
And my father is an amazing drummer and percussionist. And they both were in the worship team before they had me. When they conceived me, my mother said that in her womb, when they would play music, I would kick, you know, and when they would take the music off, I would stop kicking.
You chill.
And so that was an indication. I don't think they understood the magic in it, but that was an indication. I guess by the time I was 2-3 years old, I would set all the pots and pans that they would use to cook pounded yam and soup. And I would take the lid and I would put the lid on the vacuum, and I would use it as
your drums, drum pads.
And my mom would say, "Hey, what does this boy do with all our kitchen supplies? This boy." But they
destroy all the pots.
At a very young age, they knew I love music. As growing up as a young man, as a child, I don't even think I understood. I just knew that I was very attracted to music. If you're playing music on the radio, if you're in the car playing music, I would be very excited to go to church. If they say, "Oh yeah, hola, Sunday, we're going to church," you
are the first person,
because I know what I'm going to see when I get there is the drummer. And when I would be in church, I would just be staring at the drums like this. At a very young age, 2 years old. And so I would say the spirit of music, I was born with it. By the age of 4, the first time I ever touched drums was 4 years old. And we used to go to a celestial church, white garment church, right? And
same here.
So my father would play the conga in the church, right? And my mom would be in the choir. And as she was playing, one Sunday, the drum set guy didn't come to church.
That's how God always connects the dots.
He didn't come to church. And so I don't know what spirit of bravery came upon me or courage came upon me, but I jumped on the drums at 4 years old. And I couldn't, because I was so small, I couldn't sit down and play. So I had to stand up.
Stand and be pressing and be playing. Wow.
And they were so surprised, you know, that this 4-year-old is playing the drums so well, you know. And I became the drummer after that. So anytime the uncle wouldn't I think his name was Uncle Razaki.
Uncle Razaki.
And anytime he wouldn't come to church, I would play the drums. They said, "Allah, you're gonna play today." And you know, that was my foundation, you know. Celestial white garment church.
Same here.
They used to use the smoke.
The smoke, turari. They use the turari. Wait. Let's play this song for them. Play the key. Give me the key there. Give me the key. Jerry Moyama. You remember that one? Jerry Moyama. Àwọn áńgẹ́lì Fúsayọ̀ lọ́run.
But you know, the crazy part is all of those songs were like hymns. They're hymns.
They were hymns. Yeah, they're hymns.
So the chords are very, very similar. You can always figure it out. Even if you don't know the song, you can always kind of figure out, you know, the song. But yeah, that was the beginning of my foundation to music. You know, being Nigerian though, even though we lived even though we were living in London, we had a very African home. We had a very, very Nigerian cultural home. So they spoke the language very much. That's why a lot of people are like, you've never been to Nigeria, but you can speak Yoruba so fluently.
Very fluent.
They spoke Yoruba effectively, and pretty much every moment that they could speak Yoruba, they would at home. And my father, who was an engineer at the time, he had a very big record collection, very, very big. Probably one of the biggest collections I've ever seen. This man, and when I say big, it wasn't just the number of records he had, but it was the type of records he had. So he would have King Sunny Ade playing. He would also have Ebenezer Obey playing, but he would also have Kenny Rogers and Dolly Parton playing, but then, which was country music. But then he would also be playing Bob Marley, you know what I'm saying? And then he would be playing Stevie Wonder. Then he would also be playing, because we was born in the 80s, he would also be playing New Edition, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, the
R.
R&B's.
Kelly. So
Yes.
and, you know, and then on top of that, he'll be playing celestial gospel music, you know what I'm saying? And then and so my at the very tender age, we was living in South London then, New Cross, my knowledge of music was broad, right? And then not only was my knowledge of music broad, but I also was in a school where they were listening to hip hop, they was listening to R&B, was listening to rock music, you know. And then you know, when you're 7, 8 years old, you know, you're still in school, so there were nursery rhymes like blah blah black sheep, have you any more, you know?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Paybacks for
London Bridge is
you know,
falling down.
down, and they all are very similar. And I realized that there was a pattern between all those genres of music, and what made certain records popular and what made some records not so popular. I'm a big fan of the radio, so whenever I got in the car, I would listen to the radio effectively, you know. And back then as well, my dad had those tapes, so he would carry a tape bag, you know, cassette players. For those who are too young, sorry you.
Sorry,
but he would carry a cassette player, a bag, you know, and he'd be playing, you know,
different music,
right? So that's the foundation of my music knowledge, you know.
Okay.
And why some people say, man, I can't. You make rock music, you make pop music, you make R&B, you make hip hop, you make dance, you make you know. And I was like, yeah, you know, I do all of those things due to the fact that my knowledge from my upbringing was that wide and that vast.
Wide. Okay.
What up, bro? What's up, Graham? He remembers my boy from school. He's on there. Yeah.
Shout
So
out.
I remember looking up what composers were, and I found that Quincy Jones, who I was already a fan of, was a composer and had composed all of Michael Jackson's music, right? So he became my what we call motivation and distant mentor. So I learned everything I could learn about him. So every time I saw a record, I was going home. I was like, why are you going my records out and you're looking on the back of it? What are you looking for? I'm just looking at who wrote and produced and composed the songs on it. I'm 14 years old at this point.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm looking for who. Now you gotta understand, for someone like me, Graham, you stupid. He said, you never listened to music, you took over.
You never listen to music, you just took it over. But it's the truth.
It is true. But so at this point, at 15 years old, 14, 15, now I'm making whatever I can hear in my ear, I'm making it. So now I've become very prolific at making music, composing music, and now writing songs to the music. One of the things that helped me write music was also how much I went through at home. Right?
Like when you are sad, happy.
Right. Being Nigerian, you come from a very disciplined hand, right? And the only way I could express my feelings of, you know, feeling cooped up feeling, you know, controlled, feeling
Mm-hmm.
frustrated, not being able to pursue my dreams, not being able to
Happy,
being happy
sad.
with, you know what I'm saying, was to put it in my music. So at a very young age, I was able to kind of like understand. Now, understand that from 4 to 15, that was 10 years of learning,
Hmm.
right?
In a
So at 15,
very fast way. That's
very
very
fast,
fast.
right?
Very fast.
So, but Michael Jackson, remember, he
Yeah, it
also learned
started
from
very
the age
early
of
too.
5 to
True.
15 before
True.
he became the superstar that he became, right? And
Very true.
so, uh, that was my lesson. That was how I learned. You know, even when I joined secondary school, we just couldn't afford to. We couldn't afford to get lessons or whatever, and you know. And I remember my teacher did call my mom like, "Hey, we need to. He's gonna take his exams in music, and we need him to learn how to read, right? Which
Hmm.
means you have to hire a music teacher to do an hour a
Sight
day
read.
and so learn to read." And my parents refused. One, because they couldn't afford it, but two, also because
This boy have to be a doctor, a lawyer.
this
What's he?
music thing, we're not doing this music thing. Um, and literally my mom screamed at my teacher. She was like, you know, Mrs. Samuels, I need you to understand your boy has a gift. She said, I don't care about his gift though. I don't care.
No. What's gift? But naturally, we do not blame African parents because generations before them,
Yeah,
the perception, the picture was that education would kill poverty for them.
yeah,
So
yeah,
it's something they've always had in their head that how
yeah.
can you say music? Where is money going to come from? From music.
Mm-hmm.
How are we going to break the poverty chain when
Right.
our most loved son is saying he wants to become a keyboardist?
And
No,
I
no,
was
no,
the
no, no,
first,
no.
and I'm the firstborn though.
Firstborn. You see?
Right.
You see?
So anyway, at at 17, at 15, 14, 15, I knew I wanted to be Quincy Jones, basically.